Jake DeBrusk wants to remain a member of the Boston Bruins, and today I'm talking about why this could be the most important season of his career to date. Let's get into it, shall we?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Friday, September 1st, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your day every single day. This is how you do it. Go to your favorite podcast app, go to YouTube, search up Locked On Boston Bruins, smash that subscribe button, and each new episode will be automatically uploaded to your feeds for you to download, listen, and enjoy. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, like I mentioned, it is September 1st, and that means the Boston Bruins play hockey this month. We'll get to what's coming up here in September later on in the podcast. New Jersey's coming up. We have national TV dates. We have the Bruins' first practice schedule for the season. But first, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on Twitter or X and Instagram at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts at Ian C. McLaren. Let's begin with some Jake DeBrusk talk as Bessie jumps in the podcast here. Big fan of Jake DeBrusk, she is. Now, the 26-year-old forward can become an unrestricted free agent next summer. And in a recent NHL.com interview with Derek Van Diest, DeBrusk made it clear that he wants to stay with the Boston Bruins. Quote, "It's the only team that I know, the team that I grew up with. Hopefully it goes in that direction, and we'll see how it goes. That's why I have an agent. His name is Rick Vallette. And I told him I wanted to stay out of this one, and in time, it'll be nice when it all gets done." End quote. Now, this is a real turn from a couple years ago when DeBrusk made it known that he wanted out of Boston. He had a trade request made to management. It became public. Everybody was expecting that he would be moved at some point, perhaps to his hometown Edmonton Oilers. Instead, he signed a 2-year, $8 million contract extension in March of 2022, right before the trade deadline. It was believed that that contract was signed perhaps to help facilitate a trade so that teams had some, cost certainty. They didn't have to acquire him and then try to work out a deal with the restricted free agent, which was his status then. But he's played out 1 year of that contract, and to great efficacy, great value the Bruins got last season. And now, at the end of 2023-24, he can become an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career. Prior to signing that contract, like I said, he had requested a trade from the Bruins. He said he has kind of tested the waters before, and he's just going to focus on hockey. He kind of knows what to expect, although it's a bit different now being an unrestricted free agent. What that kind of tells me is that when he made the trade request, kind of got some kind of sense of, or made it known where he wanted to go, kind of who might be interested in acquiring him. and he definitely wants to stay. Now, last season, DeBrusk set career highs in points with 50, 14 power play points, tied his career high in goals, despite missing nearly 7 weeks after sustaining hand injuries and fracturing his fibula in the Winter Classic. He said when he got injured, he was really starting to come into his game, and he was a bit angry because he thought he was going to kind of go on a heater there, which probably would have ended up with 30, 35 goals at least. He says if he stays healthy, he thinks he can score at least 30 this season. He's knocked on the door a couple times, and we'll talk about here in a moment why the Bruins need DeBrusk to kind of have a career year coming up in 2023-2024. Obviously, they're losing Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci. A lot of people didn't think they were going to make the playoffs last season, he acknowledged, and they're back in the same position. A lot of different expectations. They're trying to move on from Game 7 loss. DeBrusk has been a part of that loss. He was part of the 2019 loss. And you start from Game 1 here coming up just like any other season. He said you want to build your game, you want to improve on what you can do out there and try to earn more opportunity. He said it's one of those things where they're not really concerned with what people are saying about the team. It's a solid group. They have a lot of guys that are there that got them to that point. And some guys that have left, that does change things, but he's focused on Game 1 of the regular season, and it's the only way to do it. And that's something that has been instilled in him by the leadership core that came before him, the leadership group that remains intact, and a leadership group that he's perhaps becoming a part of. And here coming up after the break, we're going to talk more about Jake DeBrusk wanting to stay and why this is perhaps the most important season of his career to date. All right, it is time to get ready for a new NFL season with an incredible offer from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It's quite simply the best time to join FanDuel. Their app is so easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads, player props, and more. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. Just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, plus that $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your day every single day. The calendar has turned to September, which means we will be going full tilt towards training camp, exhibition, the regular season here on Locked On Boston Bruins. So keep it locked so that you don't miss a thing. Jake DeBrusk, 64 games played last season, tied a career high with 27 goals, 23 assists for 50 total points. If he had remained healthy, he would have been on pace for times 82, 34.59 goals. So let's pencil him in for 35. He also would have been on pace for 64 points, both of which would have smashed his previous career highs. So much has been made of the 2015 NHL entry draft. The reality is, Jake DeBrusk, pretty solid selection from that draft. And he's not a kid anymore. He is 26 years old, and he is set to become, not even become, he is a core member of the Boston Bruins. And he has an opportunity now before him in 2023-24 to cement himself as a core guy moving forward, not only on the ice, but off. Quick reminder that in 385 career games, he has 119 goals. Matt Barzal has 420 games played, so 35 more, and he has 14 fewer goals. Now, Barzal, way more assists, way more total points, but Jake DeBrusk is a very capable goal scorer at the NHL level. And right now, even before entering the season, even before hitting the 30 goal mark, he could cash in at a $6 million per season contract. That's the going rate for top line wingers or top six wingers in the NHL these days. Why is this the most important season of Jake DeBrusk's career? Well, we all remember at the time of the trade request, things were great with head coach Bruce Cassidy, but to Cassidy's credit, he did take DeBrusk and put him on the top line with Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. And that really reinvigorated Jake DeBrusk. It gave him life. It gave him an opportunity to play with two elite level forwards. And he's been very productive since that time. Again, he had the 27 goals this past season. He had 25 in 2021-22. And since being deployed as a top line winger, I should say, again, he's been a very capable, consistent scorer. There are challenges this season. Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci are gone. Those are the centers that he has played with for the majority of his career. And it's up to him now to prove that he can be a consistent scorer, can be an offensive driver without being kind of buffered by one of those two centers. If he's playing with Charlie Coyle, if he's playing with Pavel Zacha, heck, if he's playing with Morgan Geekie, he needs to show that he can continue to get the puck on net with regularity and create scoring chances and goals. For him to hit 30, maybe even 35 goals here without Bergeron or without Krejci, now that would be really something to write home to Edmonton about and would prove to Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, that he is deserving of a long-term, reasonable money deal. He's also, like I mentioned, he's 26 now. He's a core member of this team, alongside Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak on the younger end, Brad Marchand, who could very well be the next captain of the Bruins on the upper end. Hampus Lindholm is in there as well. You have Milan Lucic coming back. But Jake DeBrusk, he's always been kind of a easygoing, kind of entertaining guy, kind of not taking things too seriously, but he needs to step up and kind of be a leader on this team as well. Again, it's not that it's just all fun and games for him, but perhaps there'll be situations where he'll have an A on his jersey, or where one of the other guys is injured and somebody needs to step up. He can be that guy. And we all remember during the pandemic, things weren't great for Jake DeBrusk, mentally, physically, in terms of his game. And he's shaken that off. He has rebounded. His game has improved. And now he has an opportunity to establish himself as a leader on this team. Not only offensively, not only in terms of production, but also in the locker room and as a leader. He's learned from some of the best: Bergeron, Krejci, Nick Foligno, Zdeno Chara, Torrey Krug. These are guys who have come before him and set that example. It's up to him to take on that mantle and be kind of a mentor for some of these younger guys. He's not that guy anymore. He doesn't need someone to take him under his wing. He needs to be the wing. He, David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, the best wingers on this team. Forget any talk about who's at center, who's not at center. These are high-end wingers who can create, who can succeed, and they need to be the forwards who drive the bus, and DeBrusk has to be one of those guys. He was on a 35-goal pace this past season. If he can replicate that, it'll be all the better for the Boston Bruins and also for him. It's a contract year. Often that corresponds with career years, and that needs to be the case for Jake DeBrusk and for the Boston Bruins if they have any chance of succeeding here in 2023-24. I'm excited to see what he's able to do this season. I'm excited to see the kind of numbers he puts up. One of the things that has impressed me most about DeBrusk's growth over the years is his penalty killing, his deployment late in games with the lead in the balance or fighting for that extra goal. He's become a dependable winger in all situations, and his penalty killing, his ability to create opportunities on the penalty kill is Marchand-esque, and that's something that kind of exemplifies his growth and some even more next steps that he can take in his game. So it's a huge year for Jake DeBrusk, a transition year for the Bruins, but if he really does want to stay, then he needs to prove that he is one of the guys to build around for the Boston Bruins moving forward. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to discuss Bruins New Jersey reveals coming up, as well as when you can see them on national television this upcoming season. All right, let's catch you up on some Bruins news and notes. First of all, next week is when we will see Bruins players back on the ice for practice. The Bruins captain's practice will take place beginning on September 4th. Now, we will all recall that the Bruins currently do not have a captain, but the captain's practice will be open to the media on Tuesday, September 5th, Friday, September 8th, and Monday, September 18th. So, again, Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, Bruins getting to work with the captain's practice. Select players will be made available to the media afterwards. The Bruins, of course, currently do not have a captain, but this is kind of a annual kickoff for the Bruins prior to training camp. Guys start to trickle in, and leadership in attendance, setting the example for the work that needs to be put in to have another successful season. Now, on Saturday, September 16th, the Bruins will unveil their 3 new jerseys and core merchandise for this upcoming season. They're going to have a new home, away, and alternate for 2023-24. These will be modeled by members of the Bruins at the end of a fashion show, and right after, fans will have their first opportunity to purchase the jerseys, which will be for sale on site at Logan Airport, the JetBlue hangar where this event will be taking place. So very excited to see what these uniforms will look like. There'll be new home and away sweaters, an alternate intended to be worn against original 6 opponents, and on special occasions this coming season. All 3 uniforms will have a commemorative centennial patch worn on the right shoulder to mark this historic 100-year milestone. So I'm very excited to see what those will look like. Finally, the NHL the other day announced the 2023-24 U.S. TV broadcast schedule. The Bruins will have 15 nationally televised games on either ESPN, ESPN Plus, Hulu, ABC, or TNT, including their national TV season debut on Wednesday, October 11th, when they host Connor Bedard, Taylor Hall, and the Chicago Blackhawks in the season opener. They'll also be on ESPN on the 24th when the Bruins visit the Chicago Blackhawks. Other highlights include a game against the Maple Leafs on ESPN Plus, Hulu on November 2nd, a rematch against the Panthers on November 22nd on TNT. They will play the Buffalo Sabres on TNT on Wednesday, December 27th. A game against the Edmonton Oilers on TNT on February 21st. A rare appearance by Connor McDavid on U.S. national broadcasts. March 5th, Oilers at Bruins on ESPN Plus and Hulu. And then the national TV schedule will wrap up on Saturday, April 13th with a game at the Penguins on ABC and ESPN Plus. So lots of Bruins content coming to your TVs, and of course, here on the podcast as we get back to a daily schedule coming up later on in September with the beginning of training camp. I'll be off Monday because of Labor Day, but be back with fresh episodes beginning Tuesday, September 5th. And on Wednesday, we'll be sure to bring you all the latest from the first captain's practice and what some of the guys were saying. I'm sure we can expect a lot of people are writing us off. People are underestimating us, but we are going to be okay and do everything we can to rebound from that disappointing loss to the Florida Panthers. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me here on today's episode. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll be back here next week with fresh episodes of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.